Your soulmate shared a secret about you with their mother. What happened next no one saw coming. My beloved child. Your soulmate finally told their mother the secret about you they had been protecting for far longer than anyone realized. But what happened immediately afterward left them completely unprepared. It happened during a quiet conversation when their mother noticed something different in their face. She asked one simple question: "Is there someone you still think about?" Your soulmate tried to avoid answering. They looked away, smiled nervously, and changed the subject. But their mother knew. She had noticed the distant expressions, the sudden silence whenever relationships were mentioned, and the way your soulmate seemed emotionally somewhere else. Finally, they whispered something about you they had never admitted to anyone in their family. And strangely, their mother did not look surprised. She became very still and asked, "How long have you felt this way?" That question changed the entire conversation, because your soulmate suddenly realized their mother already knew more than she had ever revealed. Instead of answering immediately, your soulmate asked how she could possibly know. Their mother hesitated before admitting that your name had come up before, long before this conversation. That was the moment your soulmate's expression changed. They had expected judgment, questions, perhaps even resistance. They were prepared to defend what they felt for you. But they were not prepared to discover that their mother had quietly been watching this story unfold from a distance. She remembered the first time your soulmate mentioned you casually, because their entire voice changed. She remembered how they tried to act unaffected after something between you became complicated. Most importantly, she remembered something your soulmate had once said without realizing how revealing it sounded. Some people don't leave your heart just because they leave your life. Now those words had returned. Don't skip, because their mother was about to reveal why she had remembered that sentence so clearly, and why she had never questioned them about you until now. Then their mother did something your soulmate never expected. She walked away from the conversation, disappeared into another room, and returned holding something she had kept hidden. Your soulmate stared at her hands, confused. "Why do you have that?" they asked. Their mother sat down and explained that months earlier, during a difficult moment, she had discovered something connected to you. She had chosen not to mention it because she wanted her child to come to her willingly rather than feel exposed. Your soulmate's heart began pounding. Suddenly, this was no longer just about the secret they had confessed. Their mother had a secret too. And before revealing it, she asked one question that made your soulmate completely silent: if you had one chance to make things right with this person, would you actually take it? Your soulmate answered faster than they expected themselves to. Yes. Their mother looked down at what she was holding and quietly said, "Then there is something about them you need to know first." For several seconds, your soulmate could only stare at their mother, wondering what she could possibly know about you that they didn't. She finally placed the item in front of them, but instead of explaining everything, she revealed something far more personal. Months ago, she had accidentally come across a message connected to you, not something meant to expose you, but something that showed how deeply you had once cared about her child. What shook your soulmate wasn't the message itself. It was the timing. This had happened during the exact period when they believed you had stopped caring. Their mother looked directly at them and said, "You built your decision around what you thought they felt. But what if you were wrong? Your soulmate went completely quiet. Because suddenly, one painful possibility entered their mind. What if the distance between you had never meant what they assumed it meant? Their mother then admitted why she had kept this hidden. She had watched your soulmate struggle with their feelings for you, but every time she almost brought it up, they insisted they were moving forward. She didn't want to interfere. Yet tonight was different. Your soulmate had finally confessed the secret they had been carrying, that despite everything that happened, they still imagined a future where you somehow found your way back to each other. Hearing those words changed something in their mother. She leaned closer and asked, "Then why are you still pretending this person doesn't matter?" Your soulmate had no answer. Stay till the end, because what happened next wasn't an argument or a warning. Their mother actually encouraged them to stop hiding from the truth. But she added one condition that immediately made your soulmate nervous. She told them not to rush toward you simply because emotions were high. First, they needed to confront the real reason everything between you had become uncertain. Then she mentioned a detail your soulmate had never told her. Their face changed instantly. "Who told you that?" they asked. Their mother hesitated, and that hesitation was enough to make the room feel different. Someone else had spoken to her about you. Someone who apparently knew pieces of the story neither you nor your soulmate realized had been shared. Your soulmate demanded a name, but their mother quietly said, "Before I tell you who it was, you need to understand why they came to me." And when she finally revealed what that person had been worried would happen if you and your soulmate ever spoke honestly again, your soulmate realized there might have been another reason the two of you were kept apart. Your soulmate felt their stomach tighten as their mother finally explained why that person had approached her. It wasn't because they disliked you. It wasn't even because they wanted your soulmate with someone else. They were afraid of what would happen if the truth about one particular misunderstanding ever reached both of you. According to their mother, someone close to the situation had known that your soulmate was making decisions based on incomplete information. They knew you had been hurt. They knew your soulmate had been waiting for a sign from you. Yet somehow, neither of you heard the one thing that could have changed everything. Your soulmate leaned forward and asked, "Are you saying someone knew how we both felt?" Their mother paused before answering. "Yes. And I think they expected both of you to eventually give up." That answer hit harder than your soulmate expected. Suddenly, old moments began returning with completely different meanings. The conversation that ended too quickly, the message that seemed colder than usual, the silence they interpreted as rejection. What if those moments weren't proof that you had stopped caring? What if both of you had simply reacted to what you believed the other person wanted? Their mother could see the realization spreading across their face. Then she said something even more unsettling. "The person who came to me believed they were protecting you both from making a mistake." Protecting you? From each other? Your soulmate couldn't understand it. And then their mother revealed the reason. Someone had convinced this person that reconnecting with you would reopen an old wound and leave both of you worse than before. But there was one problem: the warning had been based on something you supposedly said, and your soulmate had never heard those words directly from you. That was when your soulmate stopped being afraid and started asking questions. "What exactly did they say I needed protecting from?" Their mother took a breath and repeated the claim carefully. "Apparently, You had once been described as someone who wanted to leave the past completely behind, including whatever feelings remained between you. Your soulmate immediately shook their head. Something didn't fit. If that were true, why did the message their mother had found suggest the opposite? Why had your actions and those supposed words told two different stories? Don't skip, because your soulmate noticed the contradiction too. They asked their mother to finally reveal who had brought this warning to her. This time she agreed. But just before saying the name, she added one detail that changed everything: there's something else. That person contacted me again very recently, and this time, they admitted they may have been wrong about you. The confession had come only days ago, and your soulmate's mother had been waiting for the right moment to reveal it. The person who contacted her admitted that the story they had believed about you was never confirmed directly. They had heard it through someone else, accepted it as truth, and warned your soulmate's mother because they genuinely thought they were preventing more heartbreak. But recently, they discovered a detail that made them question everything. You had apparently never said you wanted your soulmate erased from your life. Those words had been someone else's interpretation of your silence. Your soulmate stared at their mother in disbelief. For so long, they had treated that silence like a final answer. Now they were realizing it might never have been an answer at all. Their mother finally revealed that the person who approached her was someone familiar with both sides of the situation, someone who had witnessed enough to believe they understood what happened, but not enough to know the whole truth. And that person now regretted interfering. They told her there had been one particular moment when you almost made your feelings unmistakably clear, but something happened before your soulmate ever learned about it. That detail shook them. What moment? Your soulmate asked immediately. Their mother hesitated. She explained that she didn't know everything yet, only that you had apparently considered reaching out when the distance between you first became painful. But you stopped. Why? That was the missing piece. Stay till the end, because your soulmate was suddenly no longer wondering whether you had cared. They were wondering what, or who, made you believe reaching out was a mistake. Then their mother said something that completely changed your soulmate's next move. Before you contact them, there's one more thing you should see. She picked up her phone and opened a message she had received during that recent conversation. Your soulmate expected another explanation. Instead, they saw a short sentence describing something you had done quietly after the two of you drifted apart. Something no one was supposed to notice. Your soulmate read the sentence twice, and their eyes immediately filled with emotion. It suggested that while they were trying to convince themselves you had moved on, you had been carrying your own unanswered feelings. But beneath that sentence was another message, one their mother hadn't opened yet. The person had written, "There's a reason they never reached out, and once you hear it, you'll understand why this went on for so long." Your soulmate's hand hovered over the phone, but their mother stopped them for just a second. "Whatever this says," she warned gently, "don't turn it into another assumption. This time, find out the truth from them." Then they opened the message. "The reason you never reached out wasn't because your feelings disappeared. You had apparently become convinced that your soulmate had already chosen a different future and that contacting them would only create more confusion. Someone had mentioned how determined they seemed to move forward, and you took that as a boundary you shouldn't cross." Your soulmate's expression changed immediately. They remembered exactly when they had started pretending to be fine. It wasn't because they were over you. They had done it because they believed you were over them. Both of you had been protecting yourselves from a rejection that neither of you had actually given. But there was another detail in the message. Before stepping back completely, you had asked one careful question about your soulmate. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would expose everything you felt. You simply wanted to know whether they were happy. When the answer came back that they were doing great and moving on, you stopped asking. Your soulmate covered their mouth as the meaning settled in. They knew exactly why people thought they were doing great. They had worked hard to make it look that way. Their mother watched them quietly before saying, "Do you understand now? Sometimes people believe the version of us we show when we're trying not to fall apart." That sentence struck deeply. Your soulmate suddenly realized their secret confession tonight had exposed something much bigger. The distance between you may have survived because both of you became too convincing at hiding what you actually felt. Then something unexpected happened. Their mother's phone vibrated again. Another message had arrived from the same person, and this one was different. It wasn't another explanation about the past. It was about something very recent involving you. Their mother read it first, and her expression immediately changed. Your soulmate noticed. "What does it say?" they asked. She looked at them as though deciding whether she should reveal it at all. Finally, she turned the screen toward them. Apparently, your name had come up in a conversation just hours earlier, and your reaction when someone mentioned your soulmate had been impossible to ignore. But the message didn't explain what you had said. It ended with only one unsettling line: "They almost revealed everything tonight, but someone interrupted them, and you need to know who it was." Your soulmate read that final sentence again, and suddenly the room felt much smaller. Someone had interrupted you at the exact moment you were apparently about to reveal what you still felt. Their first instinct was to demand the name, but their mother reminded them of something important. This story had already suffered enough because people kept speaking for both of you. Still, the timing was impossible to ignore. According to the new message, someone had casually mentioned your soulmate during a conversation earlier that evening. You tried to remain calm, but your expression gave you away. Then you began to say something about why you had never completely closed that chapter. Before you could finish, another person stepped in and changed the conversation. Was it intentional? No one could say for certain. But your soulmate immediately recognized the pattern. Once again, the truth had come close to the surface, and once again, it disappeared before reaching them. Their mother noticed the frustration building in their face and asked one question: "How many more signs do you need before you stop letting other people interpret this connection for you?" Your soulmate didn't answer because they already knew. For months, they had relied on fragments, second-hand explanations, silence, and appearances. Tonight, every one of those assumptions was beginning to collapse. Then their mother revealed something she had deliberately kept until now. When your soulmate first confessed their secret about you earlier that evening, they had said more than simply, "I still care." They had admitted they had nearly contacted you several times. They had even written messages and deleted them before sending. Their mother looked at them and asked, "What if they've been doing exactly the same thing?" That possibility left your soulmate staring at their phone, suddenly wondering whether your silence had been fear rather than indifference. Then the phone vibrated once more. This time, the message contained the name of the person who had interrupted you. Your soulmate recognized it immediately, but their reaction wasn't anger. It was confusion. This was someone they never expected to be involved, someone who had previously encouraged them to follow their heart. Why would that same person stop you from speaking openly? Their mother kept reading and discovered one more sentence beneath the name. Apparently, the interruption wasn't meant to keep you apart. The person had pulled you aside afterward because they knew something about your soulmate that you didn't know yet. And according to the message, once they told you, your entire attitude changed. Your soulmate whispered, "What did they tell them about me?" Their mother slowly looked up from the screen and said, "That's the part they haven't explained yet." That missing explanation became impossible for your soulmate to ignore. They paced across the room while their mother reread every message, searching for a clue they might have overlooked. Then she noticed a detail buried near the beginning of the conversation. The person who interrupted you had recently learned that your soulmate was still asking about you indirectly. Not constantly. Not obsessively. Just enough to reveal that the feelings had never completely disappeared. And when they pulled you aside, they apparently told you something simple: don't assume they forgot you. According to the message, you froze when you heard those words. You asked how they knew. But instead of giving you the full story, that person told you there was something your soulmate needed to admit first. That was why they stopped you from revealing everything publicly. They believed this conversation belonged between the two of you. For the first time that night, your soulmate's confusion gave way to something dangerously close to hope. Their mother saw it immediately. But she warned them not to build another fantasy from incomplete information. "You know they may still care," she said. "You know you still care. But neither of you knows what the other actually wants now." Those words grounded them. Because feelings from the past were one thing. Choosing what happened next was another. Your soulmate sat down and opened the conversation thread they had avoided for so long. They typed your name. Then stopped. Deleted the message. Typed again. Their mother watched quietly before asking, "What are you afraid they'll say?" Your soulmate swallowed and whispered, "That I waited too long." But before they could decide whether to press send, something happened that made both of them stare at the screen. A notification appeared with your name attached to it. For one breathtaking second, your soulmate thought you had somehow reached out at the exact moment they were considering doing the same. But when they opened it, they discovered something even stranger. It wasn't a direct message from you. It was a forwarded message from the person who had interrupted you earlier, sent specifically for your soulmate to see. And this time, there was no interpretation. No rumor. No second-hand explanation. It contained your own words from earlier that night, just one short sentence you had apparently said after learning that your soulmate might still care. Your soulmate read it silently, and their mother saw tears gather in their eyes. Because whatever those words meant, they proved one thing: you had made a decision tonight. And the message ended with a warning that made their heart race. They're thinking about contacting you, but there's something they need to know before they do. Your soulmate stopped breathing for a moment. After everything they had learned tonight, what could you possibly still need to know before reaching out? Their mother read the forwarded message again, then noticed another line underneath it. The person who had spoken with you believed you were afraid of reopening the connection unless you knew one thing for certain, whether your soulmate's feelings were real now, or whether they were simply missing the past. That distinction mattered to you. You weren't looking for nostalgia. You weren't willing to walk back into uncertainty just because old emotions had resurfaced. And when your soulmate heard that, something shifted inside them. Because the secret they had confessed to their mother wasn't about missing old memories. It was much deeper. They had admitted that whenever they imagined the person they could truly be vulnerable with, somehow their thoughts still returned to you. Their mother looked at them and said, "Then maybe that's what they need to hear, not a perfect speech, just the truth." Your soulmate opened your conversation again. This time they didn't type immediately. They remembered every deleted message, every moment they waited for you to make the first move, every time pride disguised itself as acceptance. Then they began writing slowly. Not a dramatic confession. Not a demand for another chance. Just an honest acknowledgement that they had misunderstood your silence and had hidden behind their own. But before they could send it, their mother asked them to read it aloud. Halfway through, your soulmate stopped. One sentence didn't feel honest enough. They deleted it and replaced it with words they had never dared to say directly. "I didn't stop caring about you. I stopped reaching because I thought that was what you wanted." Suddenly, the entire room went quiet. Their finger hovered over the send button, but another notification appeared before they touched it. This one came directly from you. No intermediary. No forwarded explanation. Your soulmate stared at your name as if everything around them had disappeared. Their mother quietly stood and gave them space, but before leaving the room, she said, "Whatever happens now, answer as yourself, not as the person who was afraid." Your soulmate opened your message. It was shorter than expected, but the first line changed their expression instantly. You had written that something happened tonight that made you question what you had believed about them for months. Then came a second line, "There's something I should have told you a long time ago." Your soulmate's heart began racing. But beneath those words was one final sentence they never expected to receive from you. "Before I tell you, I need to ask whether what I heard about your feelings tonight is actually true." For once, your soulmate didn't delete what they wanted to say. They stared at your question and realized this was the moment they had secretly imagined, and feared, for months. They could protect themselves again, give you a careful answer, and leave enough distance to escape if things became uncomfortable. Or they could finally stop hiding. Their mother was already walking away when your soulmate called her back and quietly showed her the screen. She read your question, smiled faintly, and said, "You already told me the truth tonight. Why should they receive anything less?" That was all your soulmate needed. They typed slowly, "Yes. It's true. I still care about you, and I think I have for much longer than I wanted to admit." Then, before fear could interfere, they pressed send. The response didn't come immediately. 1 minute passed. Then another. Your soulmate watched the screen, wondering whether honesty had arrived too late. But when your reply finally appeared, it wasn't rejection. You admitted that hearing those words had changed what you were about to say. You explained that the reason you stepped away wasn't because you stopped caring, it was because you believed your presence had become unwanted. Every time you considered reaching out, you remembered how distant your soulmate had seemed and convinced yourself that silence was the respectful choice. Then you revealed something they never knew. There had been one night when you actually wrote a message telling them almost everything. You had kept it unsent because someone told you your soulmate was finally happy without you. Reading that, your soulmate immediately realized exactly when this must have happened. But your message wasn't finished. You said there was another reason you contacted them tonight, something even the person who interrupted you didn't know. Recently, you had discovered that one of the assumptions keeping you apart had started with a conversation that neither of you heard firsthand. Somewhere along the way, a simple statement had been repeated, interpreted, and changed until both of you believed the other wanted distance. Your soulmate felt a chill as they read those words. Then you asked a question that brought everything back to the secret they had shared with their mother at the beginning of the night. If your feelings are really still there, what exactly did you tell your mother about me? Your soulmate stared at the screen, because answering that meant revealing the one part of their confession they had still kept hidden from everyone, including you. Your soulmate knew they could no longer hide behind half-truths. They read your question several times, then finally began typing the part of their confession that had frightened them most. Earlier that evening, they hadn't simply told their mother they still cared about you. They admitted that they had quietly compared every new connection to what they once felt with you, and nothing had ever felt quite the same. They told her that losing contact with you had taught them something uncomfortable. Sometimes you don't understand someone's place in your heart until their absence becomes part of your everyday life. But there was one sentence they hesitated to send. Their mother had heard it already. Now you were asking for the truth too. So your soulmate finally wrote, I told her that if there were still something real between us, I'd rather face it than spend years wondering what could have happened. Your reply came faster this time. At first, it contained only 4 words. I wondered that too. Your soulmate stared at them, stunned by how much such a simple sentence could change. Then another message appeared. You admitted that hearing they still cared didn't erase everything that had happened, but it did explain moments you had misunderstood for months. You had mistaken their fear for indifference. They had mistaken your restraint for rejection. Neither of you had actually asked the question that mattered. But then you revealed why you had been so cautious tonight. The person who interrupted you earlier had told you your soulmate might still have feelings, but they also warned you not to assume those feelings meant they were ready to rebuild anything. That was why you contacted them directly. You wanted truth, not another story passed through someone else. Then you sent one final message that made your soulmate sit completely still. You didn't ask for promises. You didn't ask them to undo the past. You simply asked whether they would be willing to have one honest conversation where neither of you hid behind pride, fear, or anyone else's interpretation. Their mother saw the expression on their face and immediately understood. They're asking to talk, aren't they? She said softly. Your soulmate nodded. But before they could answer you, their mother remembered something from the very first conversation. The detail she had almost forgotten because everything else had happened so quickly. She reached for the item she had brought from the other room earlier and turned it over. There was something written on the back. Your soulmate read it once, then looked at their mother in disbelief. Because those words suggested this misunderstanding between you had begun much earlier than either of you realized, and someone in the family had known about it from the beginning. The handwriting on the back was familiar to their mother, and that made the discovery even harder to dismiss. It belonged to a relative who had been present during the earliest days when your connection with your soulmate first became serious. The note wasn't cruel or threatening. In fact, that was what made it so surprising. It simply said, "Give them space. They're both confused, and pushing them together now will only make things worse." Your soulmate looked at their mother and asked why anyone had been making decisions about the two of you without speaking to either of you. She admitted that, at the time, everyone believed they were helping. They saw two people becoming emotionally overwhelmed and assumed distance would bring clarity. But no one realized that the distance itself would eventually become the reason both of you believed the other had stopped caring. Your soulmate immediately asked whether this relative had ever spoken directly to you. Their mother couldn't answer with certainty, but she remembered something important. Around the same time, that relative had mentioned having a brief conversation with you. Suddenly, your soulmate understood why your behavior had seemed to change so quickly back then. Had someone encouraged you to step away? Had you been told their feelings were uncertain? More importantly, had you interpreted that advice as proof that your soulmate didn't want you anymore? Don't skip, because your soulmate refused to let another assumption survive. Instead of guessing, they returned to your waiting message and wrote, "Yes, I want that conversation. But before we have it, I need to ask you something about what happened when we first became distant." Your response came almost immediately, "I think I know what you're going to ask." Then you revealed the detail no one expected. You remembered that relative clearly. They had spoken to you privately and told you your soulmate needed time to figure out what they truly wanted. You respected that. You backed away because you believed giving space was an act of care. But you had never been told that your soulmate didn't ask for that distance. When they read those words, everything finally connected. Their mother covered her mouth, realizing how one well-intentioned conversation had quietly shaped months of silence. Yet your next message introduced an even bigger mystery. You wrote, "That wasn't the only conversation I had back then. Someone else contacted me afterward and said something completely different." Your soulmate's heart started pounding again. They asked who it was. You began typing, stopped, then started again. Finally, one message appeared. "Before I give you the name, ask your mother whether she remembers the person who came to your house that same week." Your soulmate slowly turned toward their mother, and the question immediately drained the calm from her face. She did remember someone coming to the house that week. Until this moment, she had never connected that visit to you. The visitor had been someone your soulmate trusted, someone who seemed unusually concerned about how emotionally complicated everything had become. They had asked whether your soulmate was doing okay, then casually suggested that perhaps distance from you was for the best. At the time, their mother thought it was nothing more than concern. But now she remembered one strange detail: that person spoke as though they already knew you were planning to step away. How could they have known that? Your soulmate asked. Their mother had no answer. And suddenly, What once looked like several unrelated conversations began to feel connected. Your soulmate immediately told you what their mother remembered. Your reply took longer this time. Then you confirmed it. The person who visited their house was the same person who contacted you afterward. But what they told you was very different. They claimed your soulmate had personally decided that continuing the connection would only create problems and wanted you to move forward without waiting. You believed them because they seemed close enough to know the truth. Meanwhile, your soulmate had been told you needed space. Neither statement had come directly from either of you. The realization was painful. But then you added something important. You didn't believe this person had necessarily planned to hurt anyone. They might have thought they were preventing heartbreak. Still, they had crossed a line. Your soulmate looked at their mother and whispered, "So we both stepped away because someone thought they knew what was best for us." But the biggest surprise was still waiting. You told your soulmate that you had recently spoken to that same person again, and this time, they admitted something they had never admitted before. They said they regretted becoming involved because they eventually realized both of you had been waiting for the other to return. Then came the detail that made your soulmate's mother sit forward. According to you, this person had tried to correct the misunderstanding months ago, but something stopped them. They had written a message explaining everything, yet never sent it. And they still had that message. Your soulmate asked whether you had seen it. You replied, "Not yet. They offered to show it to me tomorrow." Then another message appeared immediately afterward, "But there's one sentence they already told me from it, and it's about what your mother said the night everything changed." Your soulmate looked at their mother, waiting for some sign that she understood what you meant. At first, she seemed genuinely confused. Then her expression shifted. She remembered that night, the night everyone assumed the distance between you was temporary. Your soulmate had come home unusually quiet, and when she asked what happened, they refused to explain. Later, believing she was speaking privately to the same trusted person, their mother had said, "Maybe they both need time before they understand what this really means." That was all. She never said you should disappear. She never said her child wanted you gone. But somehow, that sentence had traveled beyond the room and become something much stronger. Your soulmate immediately messaged you, "Is that what you were told?" Your answer came seconds later. "Not exactly. I was told your mother believed I should let you go." The room fell silent. Their mother looked genuinely shaken because those were words she had never spoken. Suddenly, your soulmate understood how easily the entire situation had changed through repetition. "They both need time" became "give them space." Then "give them space" somehow became "let them go." Each person believed they were passing along the same meaning, but by the time it reached you, it sounded final. And you had respected it because you never wanted to create tension between your soulmate and their family. Their mother took the phone and carefully read your message herself. Then she said something your soulmate didn't expect: "If they believed I wanted them gone, I need to correct that too." This was no longer only your soulmate's truth to reveal. Their mother now realized her own words had unintentionally become part of the wall between you. But before anyone could decide what to do next, you sent another message. You explained that the unsent confession from that trusted person contained more than an apology. Apparently, they had written down exactly when they realized their interference had been a mistake. It happened after they overheard your soulmate defending you during a conversation months later. Your soulmate froze. They remembered that moment immediately. Someone had criticized the way everything ended, and your soulmate had quietly replied, "You don't know the whole story. They never treated me like they didn't care. They had no idea anyone else heard it." Now you were telling them those words had reached the person who helped create the misunderstanding. But your final message carried an even bigger surprise. They didn't just hear what you said. Your mother said something right afterward. And apparently, that's why they finally decided they had to tell us the truth. Your soulmate's mother closed her eyes for a moment, and then the memory returned. After hearing her child defend you that day, she had waited until everyone else seemed distracted and quietly said, "If they still speak about this person with that much care, maybe we were wrong to encourage distance." She hadn't meant it as a declaration. She was simply questioning whether everyone's attempts to protect your soulmate had created more pain instead. But someone had heard her. The trusted person who had carried those messages between both sides finally realized that the situation they believed they were helping resolve had never actually been resolved. Your soulmate had still cared. You had still cared. And neither of you had chosen the silence that followed. Their mother looked at the phone and whispered, "That must be when they understood what they had done." Then you sent something unexpected. It was a screenshot of a short section from the unsent message. The person admitted they had made assumptions, repeated private concerns as though they were decisions, and allowed both of you to believe things neither had actually said. But one sentence stood out: "I thought keeping them apart would give them clarity. Instead, I may have prevented them from having the conversation they needed." Your soulmate read it twice. There was no anger in their face now, only a strange sadness mixed with relief. At last, the past was beginning to make sense. Their mother told them not to waste this moment searching for someone to blame. "You finally have the truth in front of you," she said. "What matters now is what the two of you choose to do with it." And for the first time that night, their soulmate knew exactly what they wanted to say. They began typing, but before sending anything, your phone call appeared on the screen. Not another message. A call. Your soulmate froze as your name flashed in front of them. Their mother smiled gently and started walking toward the door, but your soulmate stopped. "Wait," they said. "There's something I need you to know before I answer." Then they revealed the deepest part of the secret they had shared earlier, the part even tonight's messages hadn't touched. They told their mother that losing you hadn't only made them miss her. It had changed what they wanted from love and childhood. They no longer wanted something big and guessing, proud, or other people's opinions. Their mother squeezed their hand and said, "Then start differently this time." Your soulmate finally answered your call. But before they could speak, you said one sentence that made them completely still. "There's one last thing I never told you about the night I decided to walk away." Your soulmate said nothing, afraid that even one interruption might stop you from finally revealing it. Your voice was quieter than they remembered as you explained that the night you walked away, you had actually been seconds from doing the opposite. You had opened their conversation, written a message asking whether the two of you could talk honestly, and almost simple. Then the person who had been passing information between both sides contacted you. They told you your soulmate needed distance and that their mother believed stepping back would be best. So you erased the message. Not because you wanted to leave, but because you thought staying would be selfish. Your soulmate closed their eyes. All those months, they had remembered your silence as the moment you stopped choosing them. Now they were hearing that your silence had actually been your ATT.